Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here, and it's time for another podcast and another cocktail. This week's cocktail is called Dracula's Kiss, and as always, is the featured cocktail in today's episode. I'm going to start with our glass. To that, we're going to add a half an ounce grenadine. We're going to coat the bottom of the glass. Okay. I don't know how you wouldn't, but okay. Next, we're going to add ice. It says ice. I'm using a very small glass. So, one ice cube, I guess. And then 1 ounce cherry vodka, which I'm sure you can buy. But I just happen to have some that I made a while back. 1 ounce. It is a lovely shade of red. Finally, I'm going to top with cola. I am using Coke Zero. It does turn it a nice shade of red. There you have it, boys and girls. Dracula's Kiss. Mostly cola, but it's okay. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. See ya.
We learned some valuable life hacks doing the Scary Spirits podcast. And this week's episode, Dracula A.D. 1972, does not disappoint. Let me give you an example. If someone invites you to a party and the host has ready-made shrouds for you to wear, leave the party. Don't ask questions. Don't stay for a drink. Just leave. I know, they're stylish shrouds, especially the low-cut women's selection. But trust me, you need to leave. Maybe head over to the local coffee shop instead. Oh wait, maybe not. Just stay home and wear your groovy clothes in peace. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hello, boys and girls. I'm Greg.
Hi everyone, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different yet highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm doing great. How are you, Greg?
I'm okay, Karen. Thanks for asking.
You just okay?
Yep.
Do you want to expand on that or should we just move on?
Just move on. It's good that I'm okay.
Yeah, but it'd be nice if you were better than that. But let's not push it.
Well, I can't be, excellent all the time, Karen.
You should be excellent every time you see me, Greg. I don't understand why that's not happening.
Okay. I'll try
Whatever.
to do better, Karen.
I always say I'm great and and I'm with you and you would think that you would return the favor, but you don't. You just go, I'm okay. People are going to think I'm not fun, Greg. And we all know I'm
That's-
delightful.
That's not exactly what you say, but moving on. Whose choice was it this week, Karen?
Well, it's a Hammer film, so let's take a wild guess.
That is true. It is a Hammer film. It must be my choice. The film I have chosen this week, Karen, is Dracula A.D. 1972.
Is there a reason beyond it's a Hammer film that you picked it?
Well, being a Hammer film would be enough, Karen.
Well, it would.
But it was released on September 28th, 1972. So just a few days ago, Karen.
And just a few years ago.
Yeah. Anniversary is a few days ago, though. This episode comes out on October 2nd. October, Karen.
Ooh. I do enjoy October.
I have a cocktail as well, Karen.
As you should. What is the cocktail you've chosen, Greg?
Cocktail is called Dracula's Kiss.
And how would one make such a thing?
We're going to need black cherry vodka or cherry infused vodka, whatever. Grenadine, cola, and a maraschino cherry for garnish.
Did you find black cherry vodka?
I had some, Karen.
I think I would really like that. I couldn't find it.
I didn't have black cherry.
You had cherry?
I had cherry because I don't know if you remember, Karen, but way back, like 10 years ago, we did an episode on the brain that wouldn't die. And it was the Mad Scientist cocktail. And part of it was infusing vodka with Skittles.
Yes. And you made cherry.
It was red. I assume it was cherry.
Ish. It's cherry-ish.
Yeah, so that's what I used.
No, I actually looked because I think I would really like black cherry vodka, but I couldn't find it. But I had frozen cherries in my freezer. So I just threw them in there, let it sit for a while.
Karen, we're going to coat the bottom of our glass with grenadine, which I don't know how you wouldn't. As I was doing it, I'm like,
why?
Okay, sure, let's coat the bottom of a glass with grenadine. Even if you didn't put it in first, Karen, it's heavier. It's going to sink to the bottom. But never mind.
Well, it's for taste more than effect, I would guess.
I guess. And then it says add ice and vodka. I used a very petite little glass here because I was trying to be stylish, and I'm pretty sure that's what the picture on the website was a little
that makes sense.
Tiny glass, ornate,
Yes. Well, like Dracula would use.
Right.
Yeah.
So we add the ice and vodka. Then we top it off with cola, which I think is, again, perfect for a small glass.
I see yours definitely separated. I can't see mine because of the size of the glass I use, but when you hold it up, I can see.
I can see it too.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So use a small dainty glass like Greg would.
Because it's only 1 ounce of vodka and a half an ounce of grenadine. You don't want to add like 8 ounces of cola on top of that.
Oh, I kind of did that.
Okay.
I'm be up all night.
And then we garnish with a cherry if you're feeling fancy.
It's really much cooler than I gave it credit for, because when I made it, I couldn't see it. It doesn't taste any different than
It tastes like cola because it's still
like cherry cola.
Yeah.
But the effect is nice when you held it up to the light. And I'm sure
when I hold it up, I can see it's kind of separated. There's a dark red and then a light red at the bottom.
And if you were having a Halloween party and you had a bartender, it'd be a cool effect if he poured it in the bottom first.
Yeah, that's what I did. Watch the YouTube channel, boys and girls, to watch me coat the bottom of my glass by swirling.
Don't you think it'd be kind of cool?
cool?
The bartender was making you a vampire's kiss.
Well, it depends, Karen.
Everybody loves a vampire's kiss, Greg.
Well, it depends on the bartender, Karen.
Well, that's true. Well, after a couple, it won't matter. Won't make any difference.
Should we give our friends and listeners time to make their own Dracula's kiss, Karen?
Well, not before we tell them that there are hundreds, Greg, of free horror-themed cocktails in the recipe den on our website. So if you are having
about 180 of them, Karen.
I know. If you are having a Halloween party, you should check it out. Drinks like this would be a big hit.
Yes.
Now go make one.
Hold on.
And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Might you have a brief synopsis for us, Karen?
I've got a good one.
Go on. Tell us all the story.
Van Helsing dispatches Dracula to his grave, only for the Dark Lord to be reborn in 1972. When the swinging trendies of London decide to experiment with a little devil worshipping, the Count decides to move to his own bloody groove.
We are a match, Karen.
That's a good one.
It's the time. This is a very groovy movie, Karen.
Oh my God, it is.
And that was just like 30 years ago, right?
In my mind.
All right, Karen, tell us everything you really enjoyed about this Hammer production from 1972, starring Sir Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, the lovely Caroline Munro, and the equally lovely Stephanie Beacham.
Well, it's a Hammer production, so we have the usuals. The sets.
Yes, we do.
The sets were really good. The church was great. I would have lived in either apartment, Johnny's apartment, or I should say flat, because they're in London. They're flats. Or Professor Van Helsing's was cool too.
I think he had like a townhome or
but
you call
still,
them.
it was like they were cool
Brownstone.
apartments. Yeah. So that was good. Was it filmed in 1972? Because it looked like 1972. Everything about it was 72, even exaggerated, I think, a little bit. The costumes, especially the clothes. But it definitely looked like 1972 London. Christopher Lee had more lines
Did you visit London in 1972, Karen?
No, but you could tell by the cars and the furniture and the fashion. Christopher Lee had more lines than I remember in any other Dracula film. So there was that. It's always a nice dynamic between those two, Cushing and Lee. I think the kid that played Johnny, who is essential to the whole story, looked appropriately evil.
I think he's been in other things we've done.
But
maybe another Hammer film.
He oozed the vibe of evil. Looked a little like a little bit of Jack Nicholson, just a teeny tiny bit, that mischievous evil that you get from Christian Slater and this guy.
His film prior to this was Lust for a Vampire. So I knew we'd seen him before.
So he does a good job. The acting's fine. That's pretty much all I have. The story's the same old story, so it's not all that interesting, really. But I'm not going to talk about that yet. What did you really enjoy? One more thing, there are some really, really nice shots in it. There's a couple like camera angles and lighting effects and framing and stuff like that I think was better than most other Hammer films.
I agree. It is a Hammer film, so the sets are great. The costume's great. I agree. There were some nice shots. I made note of a couple of them. There's also a nice use of fog, of Froggy's fog in there, Karen. I thought that was very effective. How they manipulated their fog pretty well.
They did.
The acting's fine. I wasn't crazy about Stephanie Beacham, but I think it's because they gave her crappy lines to read or recite, because it was just a little too groovy, man.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if that was generational, because it was annoying. But I think that's because the only thing that we know it as is parody when we watch things. So I don't know.
They didn't seem real.
Well, they all seemed like they were in their 30s, especially her. Is she Jessica?
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't.
I
Didn't come
couldn't get
natural
past
to
that.
them. I felt like, because I'm sure most of them are classically trained. They don't talk like that. But I guess that's what makes good acting. But Peter Cushing's great. The Scotland Yard dudes, they're good.
Yeah.
Sir Christopher Lee is awesome. Acting wise, he does have a lot of lines in this. And I read in the Hammer Glamour book that he thought this was one of his hardest films to do, because the whole 70s vibe was like difficult for him to play, gothic 19th century vampire basically in 1972. But yeah, that's all. Anything you didn't like?
Well, I kind of alluded to it. I think that Stephanie looked about 30 years old. She looked older than everybody else. And maybe it was what you said, that she couldn't seem to say the lines without seeming like she was acting. I thought she just wasn't She was fine, but she didn't really fit with the other characters. Although they all seemed a lot older too. And they're
She
supposed
was
to be.
she was 24 years old, Karen.
Yeah, she looks so much older to me. It skipped around a lot. It cut back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really care for that. I would have liked some of the scenes to be longer so I could get more involved in them and then cut to something else. But it was so, I realized they were trying to let us know these things were happening at the same time, but it didn't work for me. I didn't like that part of it. There's a lot of it I found distracting that was supposed to be at night, which was obviously during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't put a lot of effort into that. So that was a little distracting. The more we watch these films, the more we notice those things, I think, over time, where maybe I wouldn't have noticed it.
They had the wrong filter on or something.
Something was wrong. You could see
nighttime.
sunlight in the carriage scene, like sun was coming behind, whatever that. The story was the same. I swear this was the exact same story of another one where they had the ashes, but it was the old guys who were bored with their lives. And they went in and this exact same thing.
Pretty much.
So that was disappointing because you're just rehashing it in 1972, which, I mean, are they going to do one in the 80s where everybody's wearing neon? And actually,
is that the satanic rites of Dracula?
I don't know. It's where the guys pretend to go off and do charity on Sundays and they go to and there's the Lord who has all the money, but no one knows why. And it's the same. He gathered the ashes.
Because there was a direct sequel to this, and I'm wondering if that's it. So maybe that one came after this. But no, it couldn't have.
No, it couldn't have because it was
earlier.
It was said earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same story. It reads like a money grab. Let's just use the same story, but we'll set it in 1972. Other than that, I mean, it dragged a little bit. There were a couple places they were trying to push a band who must have been related to somebody in the beginning because there were a couple songs that didn't need to be in there.
Yeah. So the sequel was The Satanic Rites of Dracula. But I think the movie you're talking about is Taste the Blood of Dracula. Yeah, because I think the Satanic Rites was Dracula was, when there was like a whole government conspiracy kind of thing, cult thing, and the Karate Man in their jumpsuits and all that stuff.
That would make more sense. I'm talking about a different one.
Yeah, you are.
But it's the same story with the ashes.
It is.
And the ring. The effects aren't great, but that's 1972. It probably would have frightened me in 1972. I think I've seen this movie before, or at least pieces of it.
It seemed very familiar, but
it's hard to tell with the story
because the story was the same. Yeah, the film you're talking about has a similar plot. It's Taste the Blood of Dracula from 1970, which was.
So they didn't even wait very long.
No.
They just recycled it.
No.
But that one was set much further back.
It was.
Is there anything you didn't like about it?
I have a few things, Karen.
Music wasn't great either.
Music was terrible, Karen. It's terrible. I get it's the 70s, and it's groovy, but it still should be a good composition. That, during suspenseful moments and, chase scenes and shit like that.
Yeah, you're not talking about the band. That's what I'm not talking about that either. They were just.
The band was fine, but
yeah,
we didn't need them. And they played 2 songs, Karen.
I know.
That party was too long.
Yes.
That's another thing. The beginning is very slow, partly because of that.
I think they were just trying to
introduce 30-minute
them.
drags.
Yes.
I felt like there's bad makeup in it, I think. Special effects makeup and just regular makeup. I mean, the girls, they all look good, right? Caroline Munro was beautiful with her eyeshadow and whatnot. And Stephanie Beacham didn't seem to wear a lot of makeup, but she looked good. And you could tell, I give them credit for this, that when she's in bed sleeping, she doesn't look like she has any makeup on then.
No, they did let her look makeupless. I agree.
Yeah. But why does Christopher Lee have gray hair? Dracula should not have gray hair. Should he? He's immortal. He doesn't age.
It's true.
Why can't they just touch up his gray? That bothered me from the very beginning.
The blood's terrible too.
Blood's terrible. And I said makeup, even the special effects makeup isn't great. The teeth, yeah, they're fangs. No. Okay, great.
The fangs
Look
weren't
like
terrible
fangs. They
though.
weren't terrible.
We've
But
seen worse.
But when Johnny is in his death scene, I don't know. It could have been a lot better than what it was.
Yeah.
I think when Christopher Lee died in an earlier Dracula film from running water, didn't like dry ice and smoke and everything come out of the water and everything, and we never saw him. We assume he just disintegrated or something, right? But
yeah,
I didn't like that.
Yeah. And when the water shut off, I thought, well, oh, is he going to come back? Because the one officer turns off the water. He dies in a bathtub in a shower, which is...
He gets a double whammy, though. He gets hit by two things that killed vampires, apparently. Story, like you said, it's a rehash of Taste the Blood of Dracula or whatever I said. We didn't see near enough of Caroline Munro or Stephanie Beacham, for that matter. Could have used some more of them. But I thought Caroline was fine as an actor. Caroline. Yeah, she was pretty good. That's all I got, Karen. Before we give our cocktail rating, would you like to hear a review from the time, Karen?
I would.
First, I have to tell you, this has a 27% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's not so good.
Nope. A 5.9 out of 10 on IMDb. But what do you think Google users say, Karen?
Google's always higher, almost always. 75.
Oh, man. 76. I'm going to give that one to you.
You have to get, I should have like a 2 point or 3 point.
If I'm giving you that one. You're getting that one.
Thank you. Because
the review I have, Karen, is from Roger Ebert.
Oh, great. I mean that in a good way. That came out wrong. It didn't sound like I meant, but I did.
And this review was published December 13th, 1972, Karen.
It stayed out that long?
Yeah. It's my birthday.
Well, everyone now knows to send you gifts.
Yes, I'm not going to tell you how old I was in 1972, though. Just a baby, though. All right. Roger writes, I like this review. I'm going to paraphrase it. I'm going to leave about a paragraph out. The friendly folks at Hammer Films Limited, the British specialists in horror flicks, have this thing about tiny glass vials. They'll use a vial or two in almost every movie they make. Sometimes they have crystal vials, but mostly just your ordinary glass vial. Those vials are handy for storing dehydrated blood from Count Dracula, who left so much blood behind him when he died that alive he would have been a godsend to the blood bank, had his blood not been overrun with vampire germs.
Vampire germs, that's good.
In any event, Dracula A.D. 1972 opens with a striking testimonial to the staying power of Dracula's blood. We remember from Taste the Blood of Dracula, an earlier Hammer endeavor, that when his dried blood is mixed with a little water and taken orally in medicinal amounts, the user becomes infected with the Count's evil spirit. That's more or less what happens again this time. A young man who looks curiously like Alex from Stanley Kubrick's Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, I guess. I haven't seen it, but
wants to be a vampire. He hangs around all day in a strange coffee house that looks curiously like the Milk Bar in A Clockwork Orange. And he looks out from under a lowered brow, just like Alex in A Clockwork Orange. And he does. He seems to be a symbol of the general decay at Hammer Films, which, having brought the horror film to a peak of perfection and created the first new horror superstar in years, Christopher Lee, now seems willing to follow the artistic leads of violence come latelys like Kubrick. Alas. Anyway, the novice lays hands on some dehydrated Dracula blood, liquefies it during a bizarre ritual in a bombed-out church, and sets into motion a complex chain of forbidden rituals designed to display Stephanie Beacham's cleavage to the greatest possible advantage.
I agree.
This isn't a terrific rationale for another horror flick, but given Miss Beecham's ability to heave and her bosom to heave with, it will have to do. On leaving the theater, I was given an honorary membership card in the Count Dracula Society and a lapel pin, which I inadvertently stuck myself with, and not a vial in sight. That was a good one, Roger. Roger,
Yep.
that was a good one.
Which also brings up something that I would have liked to have seen is this kid shows up and he has all this knowledge, but we don't really find out where he got it. How did he find out where the blood or ashes were, or what to do, or how to do
Well,
the
he plays two
ceremony?
characters in the movie.
He does.
He's in the beginning. He plays the guy who
so it's
collects
like
the blood.
It's a different guy though.
He's the same actor.
Oh.
Different guy, sure. Different.
Well, I know, but one guy
character, same
a
actor.
blonde guy rides
just like
up,
Peter Cushing.
Yes, I know.
Is a different character, but the same actor.
But even when they ride up in the beginning, there's a blonde guy on a horse, but there's also a dark-haired guy who actually, I don't know. I was confused by that. I guess that's his relative then. So they all have relatives from back in the day, I guess.
That's what I assumed.
Okay.
What kind of cocktail rating you want to give this film, Karen?
I would give it a 4, but only because it falls victim to all the other ones we've seen. If we'd seen this one first, I would give it a 3. But then if I saw Taste the Blood of Dracula, I would give it a 4 because it's just following a formula. It seems lazy to me. I mean, if you want to fight me on the 4, I would give you the 3. It's a typical Hammer film. It's exactly what you expect it to be, but it was kind of boring because we knew what was going to happen, even though we shouldn't have known what was going to happen. I'm like, have we seen this film before? I almost called you and said, I think we've seen this before, but then no, I said, no, that was a different one with the ashes, but it was the same kind of thing. So
it is. It's the
I guess on its own, it's probably a 3, but compared with everything else, I can't keep giving, they put no effort into this. I can't reward this behavior.
I agree, Karen. It's a 4. I want to give it a 3 just because Caroline Munro and Stephanie Beecham.
Well, and Christopher Lee and
Peter Cushing and
but it's just lazy. Although Christopher Lee actually speaks in this one, so I'm kind of torn. But it falls victim to the other films that they've done. I think it's just, and actually, I would say I liked Taste the Blood of Dracula better than this one. But I guess I like them set in the olden days, not what we would call modern. I didn't like the adaptation. It's cool with the lineages coming down and still being in that, battle but.
Okay. Are you ready to get into it scene by scene, Karen?
Yep, let's go.
Dracula A.D. 1972 from 1972. It's rated PG, Karen. No other warnings.
You must have been so disappointed when you saw that. Like, oh.
Well, I knew. I do my research, Karen. I need to look things up beforehand. So I knew there was no other good stuff. Let me just read
my notes as this film starts. Oh, good. We're going to start in the woods. Please be a carriage. Please be a carriage. Yes. A carriage in the woods. Okay. Proceed.
All right. First thing I've written down is credits. And then horse-drawn coach through the woods. And there's a narrator, and we learn it's 1872. And we see Van Helsing and Dracula fighting, Sir Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. And the horses break loose, the coach crashes, and Dracula is impaled by a wagon wheel, the wooden spoke of a wagon wheel.
Yeah, so I said Van Helsing didn't even really kill him. The wagon wheel did. But Van Helsing has got I said he's going to have to go through concussion protocol.
No, he's gone.
No, Van Helsing.
Yeah, he's gone.
He doesn't die before he sees the rest of it. But his vision blurs and all that stuff. He has a concussion, but then because he shoves that wagon wheel into Dracula extra hard, then he dies.
And then Dracula turns to dust, and then another man approaches. Van Helsing collapses. He gone. The other man takes Dracula's ring and puts it on his finger. He then takes a vial from his coat pocket and puts some of Dracula's ashes in it. I wrote, Van Helsing appears dead. Then we cut to a funeral, and it is indeed Van Helsing's funeral. He gone. I wrote, it's a nice shot of the coffin going into the ground. Even from the beginning where you see the flowers lowering,
I
and then you
agree.
see the coffin going in. That was a nice shot. Then a man arrives, the same man we saw earlier, and buries the ashes of Dracula outside the church graveyard. And the stake. He puts the stake in there as well. I don't know.
Which is wooden and sticking out of the ground.
Then we finish our credits. It was kind of a nice transition shot, too, from, oh, we're in 1872. Oh, we're in 1972.
There goes an airplane. Yeah.
And next thing I have is groovy 70s music. And we're in London. I get that.
And one of the reasons we know that is because we see the London Steakhouse. But what else do we see, Greg?
We see several things.
The double-decker bus.
Yes, we see that.
So if you had to guess, when you say it started with the earliest double-decker horse-drawn omnibus appeared in Paris. In what year? Horse-drawn.
I'm going to say 1879.
Not bad. 1853. And they were motorized in the 1900s. Double-decker buses were popularized in Great Britain at the start of the 20th century. And today, the best-known example is the Red London bus. 1853, they started hauling lots of people around. That's pretty cool. But yes, London.
And we're at a party with go-go dancers. And the lovely Caroline Monroe is there dancing as well. And I wrote, the parents are appalled at the goings-on. The old folks there are not pleased with all the dancing and gyration and that crazy rock music.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a bunch of kids came in, crashed a party, and nobody could do anything about it.
Yeah, the guy throwing the party tells his mom he doesn't know the people there. He invited the band, but that was it. And the band is the Stone Grounds. And they play 2 songs, as I said. They didn't need to play any.
As I quote, what, another song? They don't need another song. But I did notice there's something taped on the drum. There was like a packet or something on it. What was on it? Is that to dampen the sound?
Yeah, it's just
something?
a muffling. Yeah, probably cotton or
then
tissues, paper towels, whatever.
I think this movie is just an excuse to see women in skimpy outfits.
Not skimpy enough.
Well, it's PG.
So then Charles, I guess the guy throwing the party, goes to call the police. And then the party goers all try to guess how long it will take the police to arrive because they want to stay until the very last minute.
Yes, without getting caught.
Police arrive ahead of what they thought, and everybody runs away. And we cut to the next day, and we see the group at the cavern. But as we're looking around, like the city of London and whatnot, did you see the 1968 Mustang convertible, Karen?
I did not.
Parked right in front of the mall there. What was the mall? I don't know, but it's right next door to the cavern.
Okay, but so before you ask me questions about that, I think they're in Chelsea.
Chelsea Mall, that's what it said.
So Chelsea is considered to be one of the most exclusive and affluent areas of London. It's known for its high-end boutiques, trendy restaurants, and beautiful homes. So I don't know if it was in 1972, but it is now one of the most affluent areas, which I thought was kind of strange for the kids to be there, but maybe they're from wealthy families or something.
Yeah, I was going to say they didn't seem to be hurting for money.
No, they didn't.
But
that might be why they're bored.
Could be.
And hanging out together.
But there is a 1968 Mustang convertible parked right outside. What do you think one of those went for brand new in 1968, Karen?
$1,600.
Not bad. You're low.
I was going to say $2,000, but
closer to $2,900.
Oh, wow, that's pretty pricey.
What do you think the average retail price of one of those now is, Aaron?
$40,000.
Oh, I'm giving you that one too. 40,300.
Oh, come on. That's pretty good.
I know. I'm giving it to you, Karen.
Wow. I'm on fire today.
You are on fire. So then they're in the coffee shop, I guess is what it is.
Yeah, it's a
Called
coffee
the
shop.
Cavern or whatever.
It's a drug den, really, but it's a coffee shop.
But to go there to drink coffee and tea and Coke, because that's what they were doing. But
Yeah, I
whatever.
think it's supposed to be it's their hangout. Maybe it's like, what's that place in Friends called
I
that
don't
they
know.
all go to?
Didn't watch it.
The perk or something. I don't know. I never really watched it. Something perk.
So they meet at the cavern. They're trying to, so what are we going to do now? What are we going to do? And
We're so bored. This is so boring.
Johnny wants to have a satanic ritual, Karen.
Johnny has an idea.
Yeah. And Caroline wants to give it a go. It could be a giggle, she says.
It could be a giggle. I'm going to start using Come on, Greg. It could be a giggle.
Jess reluctantly agrees.
They talk about Ouija boards, crystal balls. They're kind of making fun of seances and all that.
But Johnny says they should do it that night at midnight because it's the feast of Belphegor.
Yes, Belphegor. So there's some interesting things about him.
I was hoping you'd have something interesting to say about him, Karen.
He was a fallen angel, and he has become a demon lord who reigns over the sin of sloth. So he's one of the 7 deadly sins.
Mm.
He did not have a part in Lucifer's rebellion, but he refused to join God's side and stood idly by. So
he Switzerland.
which earned him his father's punishment, and was cast down to hell alongside the other rebel angels, transforming him into the archdemon of sloth. His brother is Beelzebub. It says Belphegor is closest with his twin, Beelzebub, to whom he shares a telepathic link. He often agrees to plans or events he'd otherwise find troublesome because Beelzebub is involved and asks him to join in. So he is a lieutenant from hell who has been dispatched to earth on many missions by the devil. Now, a lot of times when you see him, he's on a toilet. So here's the most interesting fact that I found. Some rabbis claim that he must be worshipped on a toilet, with offerings being the residue of one's digestion. Which is, if you think about it, one of the laziest things.
I'm not going to be able to get that out of my head now, Karen.
I know. I thought you would like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll be making offerings to Belphegor.
You want to speed it up in the bathroom so that you aren't misconstrued as making offerings to a demon. Be aware, people.
All right. So next we see John.
I don't think I'm ever going to be able to top that one. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We appreciate you spending time with us. You know, you can help us grow our audience by following us on social media at Scary Spirits Podcast. Just look for us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And don't forget to tell all your friends to find us too. Now let's get back to the show.
John arrives at home and he has the ring and vial of ashes. And then we learn that Jess is a Van Helsing. She arrives at home and she pulls a book from her grandfather's library called A Treatise on Black Masses.
Do you have an autographed copy of it?
I do not, Karen. But the holidays are right around the corner, Karen.
There you go.
Then Peter Cushing arrives, her grandfather. He sees her reading the book and tells her it's not a subject to be messed around with. Then Grandpa gives her a little bit of the family history as well as us, and he asks her to go to dinner with him that evening, but she has plans.
I will say that she's rocking the Carol Brady haircut, but a little longer. So is that a mullet?
I was going to ask you about the hair. I didn't even.
Do you think it's a wig?
Carol Brady. That's what I was going to ask you. But it is Carol Brady, but longer.
Yeah. It's a Carol Brady, but longer. But it's not is it a mullet?
I don't know.
Where's Courtney when we need her?
I wouldn't call it a mullet.
We need to phone a friend. I'll send her a picture and I'll get back to you.
Then Peter Cushing puts the book away and begins to pull out a book on vampires, but stops. Apparently it's a book written by his father.
His father or his grandfather?
His father. And there's an etching of Dracula and a painting of his father, I guess, hanging up.
Yes.
In his library.
Both of which are very nice. art-wise.
So then Jess and her boyfriend arrive at the church. Boyfriend Bob.
So we should say Jess is reluctant this whole time, not into it. Laura is 100% in from the start. She's all in. She's digging it. But everybody basically convinces Jess to go. And you do get a little bit of Johnny is super focused on Jess even before this all starts. He kind of, you can tell there's something going on.
What'd you think of Bob's car, Karen?
It was groovy.
It was groovy. It was a 1971 Citroen Dyane 6. Dyane, Dyane. Dyane
Could
6.
you pick what you wanted on the sides?
I don't know.
Because he had like multicolored.
He did. It's like he had prism tape on it or something.
Yeah, stickers, some sort of stickers on the sides.
What do you think one of those goes for now,
Lord.
Karen?
52.
You're way high, Karen.
28.
Still way high, Karen.
Really?
Yes.
It's groovy.
It is, but it's a Citroen. 1971 Citroen.
15.
In excellent condition, like
15,000.
$19,167. So
Wow.
about 14 and a half, 14,000.
So what did you buy one for?
Huh?
How much was it when you?
I don't know what they went for brand new, but they range anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 now, depending.
I was
on
just wondering if that would give us an indication if
condition.
they were well off or not, these kids.
Yeah, don't know. So they arrive at the church and apparently they don't find anyone there, but they find the grave of Lawrence Van Helsing, Jess's great grandfather. And he died 100 years ago to the day.
Yes.
They are there.
And Bob's pissed.
Bob is pissed.
And he's like, that's it. We're out, and Jess is like, oh no, let's do it. Let's, but he was triggered by that and thinks that Johnny did that on purpose.
And then one of their friends scares them wearing a skull mask. And Jess makes the note, why does it say rest in final peace?
In Latin, yeah.
And then they all enter the church. The guy who scares them apologizes, didn't mean to scare him, whatever. Enter the church and join the others who are already in there.
And Laura says, look, everyone, Johnny's got shrouds for us. So I was like, mental note. If someone says, hey, look, everybody, Greg's got shrouds for us to wear, leave. Don't go at a party where someone has shrouds for you, ready to go.
Johnny begins the ritual. And I wrote, there's more groovy music. They're playing like on a reel-to-reel tape
which really
player.
gets to them. Did he drug them or are they just that?
Well, Laura is smoking what appears to be a hand-rolled cigarette.
Okay.
When they're sitting in the circle.
Okay, I didn't see that.
So a lot of that fog isn't fog at all.
Okay, gotcha. I missed it.
Yeah, they don't really focus on it too much because they don't want to have to give warnings about drugs, right?
Right. Although there are some other parts where they do, but we should also say that Bob gives Johnny a little shit about the grave outside. Says, what are you doing? That was rude.
True.
Basically, that was rude kind of thing.
Yeah, and the next thing I have is Caroline Monroe seems to be digging it.
Well, they all start to move kind of like they're in a trance.
Yeah, digging the groovy music and the drums.
And he's like their meditative guide. He's like, let it roll over you, feel it. And they're feeling it.
And then Johnny calls on devils and demons.
Yeah, he names a lot of them.
And right here I wrote, nice effect with the fog. They kind of control it really well. And then Johnny calls on Dracula.
He demands an audience with the satanic majesty. I was like, okay.
And then the ground outside the cemetery begins to heave.
It breathes, yes. Heave's a better word.
Yes. Johnny calls on Jessica to help, but she refuses.
But who
Caroline,
does it?
Caroline, me, I'll do it, me.
Pick me.
She volunteers to.
So it's like the Hunger Games. He picks Jessica, but no, Caroline Monroe steps up and says, me, take me. And he does. She dances seductively in the pentagram. I mean, that had to do it for you, right? Caroline Monroe dancing seductively in a pentagram.
And it was a good moment, Karen. So then Johnny carries her to the altar.
And he adjusts her just so. So the camera get a nice shot.
We don't see anything though. There's no nudity.
No, but her boobs are.
There's cleavage.
Let's just say the shrouds that Johnny has brought along for the women are very low cut in the front.
Then Johnny
choose your shroud carefully.
Then Johnny threatens the others with a curse if they say anything about what they are seeing. Then Johnny gives, I keep calling her Caroline, but it's Laura. Caroline a goblet to hold, and he pours the ashes into the goblet. She has it kind of on her
position
sternum.
Between her bosoms. Perfectly. And it goes up and down. No.
Again, the ground outside heaves. Then Johnny takes a switchblade and cuts his hand, dripping bad hammer blood into the goblet.
That's a lot of blood.
Quite a lot of blood, I wrote.
Yeah, it fills the chalice.
The ground heaves. And then I wrote, lots of hammer blood in the goblet.
So we're starting right here with this back and forth, back and forth, back. Here it's okay, but it gets worse as the movie goes on.
Then Johnny spills the blood on Caroline. She screams and the others run away. Caroline yells for them to help her. Apparently she can't move or something, Karen. She says, I can't move.
Is she stuck in the pentagram or something?
Yeah, but they run away.
Jessica wants to help her,
to go.
But Bob drags Jessica. He's like, hell no, we're leaving. Too much.
Then the land outside the cemetery begins oozing with Froggy's fog.
Well, and there's the wagon stake out there, which has not deteriorated in 100 years in London weather. Come on, people. But anyway, when he pulls it out,
he pulls the stake from the ground,
nice.
And then fog billows out.
Yes.
Dracula appears in the fog.
And that's a nice shot because they shoot from really low up.
And he's a big dude anyway.
And he's tall to begin with. That was impressive. I like that one a lot.
And Dracula now has his ring back.
Yeah, because Johnny was wearing it.
Yes.
But it mysteriously appears on Dracula's finger.
And then Johnny says, Master, I summoned you. And then Dracula says, it was my will.
Yeah, Johnny's a little too eager.
So then Dracula enters the church and approaches Caroline Monroe.
Which is also a nice shot. The wind is blowing in there. It's blowing her hair. It's blowing the leaves. It's very cool in the church.
I wrote, she says no, but her eyes say yes. And Dracula bites her on the neck, and she seems to like it, Karen.
After the first bite, yes.
So then we see Jess's boyfriend trying to assure her, Bob, that everything will be fine when he drops her off. He said, it'll be fine. You'll see tomorrow. We'll be back at the cavern, and Laura will be there. It'll be awesome. The next day, they all meet up at the cavern, and no one has seen Laura. Then I wrote, are workers demolishing the church? Because there's like a construction.
Yeah, that's why they chose it. He said,
but I know we see the church later. So it hasn't been
I think their church, they're doing construction around it. I think they're building, destroying and building at the same, moving forward kind of thing.
Then Johnny arrives at the cavern. He tells the others that Laura has gone to see her parents. He tries to convince them the whole thing was a gag.
Yeah, he's gaslighting everybody.
And he tells
that's
them
not what happened.
Yeah, he has blood pills, and every sound effects they heard were from the tape recording, and he explains everything away. Just an elaborate
tries to,
prank.
But they're not. He says the wrong town and all. He didn't do his research, but
then we cut to kids
telling him that's not what you saw. You didn't see that. You didn't hear that.
And we see some kids looking for a ball back at the church area, and they find the body of Laura.
Yeah, he did a terrible job. Her head's sticking out. He didn't even cover up her face, So
then we see the police looking at the body of Laura. It is mutilated.
Yeah, they keep saying mutilated. I don't know what that means.
I don't either. But body appears to be drained of blood. I guess she probably had multiple bite marks on her.
Maybe because later they say this body wasn't mutilated. It just had the bite marks.
Right.
But I thought that's what they meant by mutilated, but apparently not.
The body appears to be drained of blood. One of the police officers says it looks like a cult murder, like they had in the States a few years ago, Karen, during the Satanic Panic. So then we cut to Scotland Yard, and we learn they have Laura's fingerprints because she was arrested for possession of drugs in the past. And they have a list of all her acquaintances, including Jess Van Helsing. And they remember that name because her grandfather helped them on a case in the past. Inspector says he's going to go talk to Van Helsing and his granddaughter.
And right before that, Johnny has 2 tickets to some jazz concert. He invites Jess, which is weird because she has a boyfriend. And the other girl there says, "Oh, I'd kill to go to that," which sets up that they're going to go on a date later. I don't know.
Gaynor is her name.
Yeah.
So Johnny takes Gaynor to this, he's going to take her to this jazz thing, but he stops at his place first. And Gaynor smokes a hand-rolled cigarette, Karen.
Yes. He says, "Come on in for a bite." So she does. And but then they switch back to
The inspector.
Yeah.
Talking to Van Helsing. Inspector tells Van Helsing that the body was drained of blood.
That gets his attention.
Then we cut to Johnny and Gaynor kissy facing on the couch.
And smoking. There's a really nice shot of them smoking where they blow out, it's backlit. So when they blow out the smoke, it really shows up. And then, they start kissy facing.
And we come back to Inspector and Van Helsing. Van Helsing thinks it was vampirism. He smokes a Marlboro.
He smokes a lot.
Van Helsing tells them about his father. Inspector tells Van Helsing he wanted to talk to his granddaughter, Jess, as well. Surely she can't be involved, Van Helsing says. But just then, Jess arrives home. She tries to sneak in and head to bed, but Van Helsing stops her. Inspector begins questioning Jess about what she did the previous night. And she does name all of her friends she was with last night, but they were just hanging out. They were just...
First, she just says, hanging out with the gang. Just tooling around with the gang. And then he's like, well, who's in the gang? And where exactly did you go? She tries to evade, but she doesn't do well. She cracks under the pressure right away.
They tell her that Laura was murdered.
Yeah, and then she cracks.
She tells them all about the church and what they were doing and everything. She tells them that the others are probably at Joe's place, whoever the hell Joe is. So police head to Joe's place to try to question the others, and they're assuming they will find at least a little bit of weed or something, so they will be able to hold them all, and question them. So then Van Helsing questions Jess about Johnny, Alucard.
Yeah, he just showed up one night, she says, and joined the group. Yeah, I knew what that was immediately. Did you?
Not immediately.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's Dracula backwards. Okay.
And Van Helsing figures out that night that Alucard is Dracula, spelled backwards. And we see Jess having nightmares in a lovely nightgown.
Yeah, it's quite see-through, that nightgown.
But you don't see anything because it's kind of like it got a pattern in it as well.
Sort of, but I don't think I'd want my grandpa to see me in that, but whatever.
So then we see Johnny and Gaynor again, and I wrote, does he take her to the church? I guess he does.
She's wasted, yeah.
But Dracula is there, and he tells Johnny she is not the one. Then we cut to Jess having nightmares. Then Dracula puts Gaynor in a trance and bites her, and Jess screams, wakes from her nightmare. Her grandfather, Van Helsing, comes running in and comforts her in her lovely nightgown. Again, I wrote. He tells her the nightmare is over, and she says, no, I don't think it is. Then we cut to Gaynor's body laying on the floor of the church. Johnny demands the power of immortality from Dracula.
Yeah, he's tired of waiting.
Dracula, I guess, wants to eliminate the Van Helsings, and Johnny tells him it will be easier for him to get Jess, which is who he wants, if he has the power of immortality, or whatever. So then we cut to Van Helsing at his desk. He takes a cross from his desk, and he asks the painting of his father for strength. So then we see Johnny getting rid of Gaynor's body. And Van Helsing puts the cross on Jess as she sleeps in her lovely nightgown.
There was a nice shot of the painting of Dracula when Van Helsing's at his desk, because you can see him at his desk and
Johnny
painting,
has the exact same painting in his.
yes, but it's lit up, and it was a nice shot.
And right here I wrote time check.
Because Van Helsing's framed in the doorway of, yeah, you still got a ways to go here.
There's only 30 minutes left actually from here.
No.
But this is where it really starts picking up.
Yes.
And I could kind of tell it was, because I'm like, shit, there's only 30 minutes left. This has got to get moving.
He does put the necklace on his granddaughter without her knowing it. I said, I hope I don't sleep that deeply. I would like to know if someone has their hands around my neck.
So then we see Johnny is now a vampire and he's stalking a girl leaving a laundromat.
There was a cool shot of Christopher Lee at the church too, with his cape blowing and the leaves blowing and the moonlight coming in. They did some really nice shots in this movie. Yeah, but I said the poor woman at the laundromat. We've all been there at the laundromat.
Smoking a Marlboro.
Waiting for your shit to dry in the laundromat. I was never so happy as to get a washer and dryer. If the apartment came with a washer and dryer, that was like primo.
Mine usually had them in the building. I didn't have to go to a laundromat. Mine always did for the most part, but I don't think I've ever actually put money in the laundromat and washed my clothes.
Really?
Yes. I mean, I went to Sudsy Malone's, but not to do laundry.
Sudsy Malone's was a bar in Cincinnati, which was a fabulous idea, except smoking was still allowed.
It's true.
In bars. So you did your laundry while you watched bands, and
drank beer
and whatever,
and
which
smoked.
is a fabulous concept. I mean, think about it, right?
Yeah.
Because most dorms and stuff didn't have laundry facilities. Now they do, so it's not the same, but you think this is fantastic, this is great, and then you'd get all your clothes home and they all stunk like cigarettes because
you always had to look into the washer to be sure it wasn't puke in it or something first, or
Yes.
Somebody puked in the washing machine.
But
at the bar.
I actually loved that place. It was fun.
I did too. I went there quite a bit. Saw some bands.
Yeah, but saw some bands that had people I was dating in them. But I had to always rewash my clothes. So I would have been at the laundromat after being at Sudsy Malone's.
Next day, Peter Cushing goes to the church and collects some holy water. A real church, not the...
Yes. There's organ music. It says, oh, we're at a church service. Oh, wait, he's just grabbing the holy water. So there is holy water at the entrance to every church that you are supposed to anoint yourself with before you go in, Greg.
I had no idea.
I know. That's why I'm telling you.
Not every church. Didn't have them in my church.
A Catholic church. I don't know about other churches. Catholic churches always have them. But he pulls out his handy dandy flask vial.
So let me ask you about holy water. Does just like the priest just has to walk by and like make the sign of a cross and it's holy water?
I'm sure he says a prayer or something.
Okay.
But my mom used to have, my parents, there used to be a plaque on the wall that had holy water in it. I think my mom put it there because she liked vampires, and I think she was being careful. And then when my dad was cleaning out my aunt's house, he actually found a box that had holy water and a candle. And I was like, that's a vampire hunting kit. He did not appreciate that. But yes, he grabs some holy water in a little vial.
So then we cut to, he's at Scotland Yard talking to the inspector. Inspector lets it slip that there have been 2 more bodies found, including another one of Jess's friends, Gaynor. Van Helsing tries again to convince the inspector that it is a vampire. Van Helsing tells Inspector about Dracula. Legend has it that he was buried near the church, and he could rise again if the stake is removed from his heart.
Yeah, we get a little vampire lore here.
Van Helsing smokes a Marlboro and tells the inspector about how to kill vampires.
Yes.
Specifically silver and running water.
He says silver bullets don't work and garlic is not 100% reliable. They don't like silver, especially knives.
Yep. Silver
and then
knife.
He brings up running water. And he says vampires attack for 2 basic reasons. It needs human blood to nourish itself, and it will also attack to curse its victim and make whoever he attacks live like himself, be the living dead.
And he warns the inspector that unless the vampire is stopped, it will continue to infect others. And he asked to be notified as soon as the police locate Johnny.
So the inspector says he kind of believes him, but he can't tell his superiors. So he says, I'll work with you, but I'm not going to tell anybody.
Next, we see Bob sneaking into the cavern because it is being guarded by the police. It's been shut down as a drug
Yeah. So why is he going
den.
there? Do you think he got called?
Yes, Johnny is
Oh.
waiting for him.
So he just goes around to the back.
Yeah,
So this is shoddy police work
it is.
because they're guarding the front, but there's obviously a back door.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Bob enters. Johnny is waiting for him. So then we cut to Van Helsing checking out the church where all the ritual shit went down. Then we see Bob, and he goes to see Jess.
So throughout this movie, Bob has been wearing, what's it called? What Fred and Scooby-Doo wears?
An ascot.
An ascot. He has been wearing those. So when he shows up at Jess's, he is wearing the ascot, which is not unusual for him.
Bob gets Jess to go back to the cavern with him. He tells her the police are there and questioning all the others.
And some old lady, I guess is the maid or housekeeper.
Right.
Obviously, Van Helsing told her not to let Jessica leave, but Jessica says, it's cool. I'll be back.
Then Van Helsing finds a loose board in the fence around the church.
Which is how the kids got into.
Yeah, so now he knows how to get in. Cut to Bob and Jess arrive at the cavern, going in the back door. Jess walks in and realizes it's a trap and that both Bob and Johnny are vampires. Johnny rips the necklace from Jess and it burns, Karen.
Yes.
Then Bob starts to bite her, but Johnny stops him. He says, she is not for us.
Jessica is going to be the bride.
Then we see Van Helsing calling home to check on Jess. Housekeeper, maid, whatever she is, says that she went out and they said something about a cavern. Van Helsing hangs up and goes right to the cavern. He arrives there, finds the front door blocked by the police, but he finds no issue with finding the back door either.
Yeah. Easy peasy.
He walks in and no one is in there, but he does find the necklace on the ground. Then we have a montage of Peter Cushing running through the streets of London.
Yes.
And Anna, one of the other friends, stops him.
Just happens to see him. Oh, I've been looking for you all over London. Here you are.
Well, she came to the cavern and saw him leaving the cavern and followed him, or whatever. Anna tells Van Helsing that she knows where Johnny lives. So then we cut to Johnny's house, and he's cleaning out his hope chest so that he can sleep in it.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a coffin.
Yeah, a casket. Van Helsing arrives. And Johnny turns to a vampire. He and Van Helsing fight. The sun begins to come up. Van Helsing throws a Bible and the silver cross necklace into the casket. So Johnny can't go in there.
But Johnny goes, please take it out. Please take it out. It's funny. I actually laughed when he was begging him to take out the stuff.
Then Johnny pulls his switchblade, but the light hits his hand and it burns, Karen.
But he gets him once.
He does. And then Van Helsing grabs a mirror and focuses the light from the sun on Johnny as he runs about the room.
Yes.
Keeps it on his face. So then Johnny stumbles into his bathroom and accidentally pulls the screen from the
screen,
sunlight or whatever.
The blinds from the skylight.
Skylight, letting the sun in. Then he falls into the bathtub. And when he does, he hits the knob turning on the water. But he refuses to tell Van Helsing where Jessica is. You'll never find her.
This is his revenge, a diabolical vendetta against his grandfather.
So then police arrive, find the body of Johnny. Police officers tend to Van Helsing's wounds. Police want to go to the church. Van Helsing tells them it won't do any good during the day. He asks the police to let him have an hour in the church alone that evening.
And he agrees to do that. He says, I have other leads I can follow.
That evening, Van Helsing goes to the church with his vampire killing bag, he wrote.
Yep.
He finds the body of Bob. Apparently he didn't make it to this crypt, I guess. But he's not.
He's just normal Bob laying
Yeah,
there.
he's not burnt or anything. He's not even sunburned. And
But
Johnny wasn't very messed up in the tub either. That's what I'm saying. The makeup wasn't great. So Van Helsing finds Jessica on the altar of the church. He cannot wake her, but he puts the silver cross around her neck. And right here I wrote, who put Jessica in that lovely gown?
that's quite the gown.
I could not help but wonder how
Shows off her assets for sure.
they had to undress her and then put this gown on her.
Oh, you mean, yeah, I see what you mean. I thought you meant like as the costume designer who put her in there.
No.
No, I get it.
And then Van Helsing gets his vampire killing equipment together. Sun is beginning to go down, and he sets a trap by digging a hole and filling it with wooden stakes.
It took him all day
Okay.
because he sharpened all the sticks and then they're all
I was going to
pointing up.
say, he didn't arrive there right before.
It's like a
Sundown
Tarzan
and
trap
do
where
that.
they put like some grass over the top and people fall in it.
Dracula enters the church. Jessica opens her eyes. Dracula rips the cross and necklace from her neck, and it burns a little bit, but he's fine. He goes to bite her, but Van Helsing yells at him. And right here I wrote, how do they make Christopher Lee's eyes so bloodshot?
Yeah. And why are they bloodshot? That usually happens right after he feeds. Think they put something in them?
They must have.
Chlorine or something?
Don't know. I can't believe chlorine, but then Dracula chases Van Helsing
Not pure
through the
chlorine,
church.
but like if you open your eyes in chlorinated water for a long time, that'll happen.
That's true. Dracula chases Van Helsing through the church, and right here, bad music choice, I wrote.
Yes.
This music's terrible. Van Helsing stabs Dracula with the knife, and Dracula falls from the balcony onto the floor below. Jessica approaches Dracula on the floor. She appears to be in a trance. Van Helsing tells her not to touch him. He runs down to find that Jess has taken the knife from Dracula's body. So now Dracula's standing up. Van Helsing runs outside. He tries to lead Dracula to the trap, but Dracula sees it.
Well, he almost fell in it. He's also fighting basically with one arm because he was stabbed earlier.
So Van Helsing throws holy water on Dracula, and Dracula falls into the pit of stakes. And then Van Helsing impales him with a shovel, forcing the wooden stakes through his body.
Yes. Like I thought he was going to cut off his head, which
I did
he
too.
should have done. But
And I wrote bright red hammer blood.
yes, bad blood. But a nice shot of Peter Cushing standing over the grave.
Yeah.
Again, from that low angle.
Dracula again turns to dust.
And his ring is left.
Van Helsing and Jessica embrace. And then Jessica finds Bob's body. And then Van Helsing mutters some Latin. I guess it means rest in final peace, Karen.
Yes. But I don't know who he's saying it to, Bob or Dracula.
Credits, the end, and more bad music.
Not my favorite.
Anything we learned today, Karen?
We learned about the double-decker bus, Chelsea. Oh, I did forget one thing. We learned about the demon Belphegor and how to deposit offerings. So at one point when Peter Cushing is in the inspector's office, the inspector plays with one of those, it's called a Newton's cradle, where there's strings and a ball.
I had a feeling
Everybody used to have them.
I never had one.
My parents had one at home, and I think my dad had one on his office desk where you pull one ball back, you drop it, and then the ball on the other side goes up. They all don't move, just the ones on the end. So Newton's cradle aptly demonstrates the principle of the conservation of momentum, mass times speed. This principle states that when two objects collide, the total momentum of the objects before the collision is equal to the total momentum of the objects after the collision. So one ball falls, hits, I think there's usually 6, something like that. Does that sound right? I don't know. The ones in the middle don't move and it hits the other one on the end.
I think it's 7. I think it's an odd number because we used to take like pairs or
Yeah.
Seems like we do 3 and like one would stay there or something.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was something that we were easily entertained by back in the day.
Probably an even number, actually. But yeah.
Thought it was 6, but I don't know.
6 sounds right. Anything else, Karen? We learned?
No, that's it.
A little about Sudsy Malone's.
True, but only a few people will know what that is.
Well, now
Cars.
they all know. They all know now. We told
You
them.
mentioned a couple of cars.
Yeah, the 1968 Mustang convertible and 1971 Citroen Diane. Anything else we learned?
That's it.
What'd you think of the
It was the exact
Dracula's?
same as the other movie, so anything that I could have come up with would have been the same. Sorry, the Dracula's Kiss.
Yeah.
It's good, but it's cherry Coke, and I do enjoy. I've always liked cherry Coke, so I like the way you did it much better. I think a small dainty glass where you can see the grenadine in the bottom is the way to go. It's visually pleasing.
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, it's evaporated. But yeah, it's cherry Coke. You're right. I don't really like cherry Coke. It's fine.
It's probably because it's sweeter.
Are we ready to move on to next week's film, Karen?
We are.
And what film have you chosen for us?
I have chosen the 2015 movie Crimson Peak.
Any reason you chose that film, Karen?
Well, you're going to be so proud of me because it comes out on October 9th, and that is the director's birthday. Guillermo del Toro directed this.
I see what you did there, Karen.
I know. I'm turning into you. Can you believe it?
It's about time.
Nah, it won't stick.
Yeah, it would be boring if we just had 2 of me on here.
Well, yeah, it's true.
Do we have a cocktail to go along the film, Karen?
Yes, and we get to serve it in a coupe glass.
A coupe?
I'm not sure. How do you say that? Is it coupe or is it coupe? I think it's coupe, but I don't know. But yeah.
What is the cocktail, Karen?
It's called the Clairvoyant Cocktail.
Also a song by Iron Maiden, Karen.
You're going to stir all these ingredients together with ice and fine strain it into a chilled glass. 1.5 ounces of sherry, 1.5 ounces of dry vermouth, 1/2 ounce of hazelnut liqueur, and a dash of orange bitters. So stir them all together, strain into a chilled glass, and garnish with an orange zest twist.
Okay, great. I'll finally get to use my sherry.
Ooh.
All right, anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
Oh, I think our listener should be thanked. You know why?
Why, Karen?
There are so many podcasts out there. We really appreciate you spending time with us. What about you, Greg? Who do you need to thank?
Karen, I'm going to thank the great people of the Magnolia State.
Oh, the Magnolia State.
Yes.
It's got to be Southern. Or is it Pennsylvania again? You're just switching it up on me.
Mississippi, Karen. Mississippi. Pennsylvania came in first, but they came in second.
Okay. We're tired of giving credit to Pennsylvania. Is that what you're saying? It's getting boring. Keep saying the Keystone State. We love you, Pennsylvania, but we got to mention someone else once in a while.
Yeah, I thought it would be a good way to work in the Magnolia State.
That was my mom's favorite flower, the magnolia.
Well, there you go. And of course, the band Verse 13 for providing all the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to the Scary Spirits podcast, where the movies might be iffy, but the drinks are always solid. We would love to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast, or go to our website, scaryspirits.com. And if you want the direct line, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. If you really want to help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And remember, always drink responsibly. See you next week.